Nós, estudantes de Relações Internacionais da PUC São Paulo e integrantes do grupo de estudo de conflitos internacionais, firmamos uma parceria com Democracy Now!
A partir de agora, vincularemos com legendas em português as mais importantes notícias internacionais da semana.
From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
There's been times where I drive by and I just start crying because, you know, it's right behind my house and I don't know. And I think that's the worst part, is not knowing what's actually going on in there. And just hoping that they're okay.
A major U.S. military and CIA contractor has been caught detaining dozens of migrant children inside a vacant Phoenix office building with dark windows, no kitchen, only a few toilets. We'll speak with Reveal's Aura Bagado, who broke the story. Then we go to the U.S. border in Texas, where we continue our conversation with human rights lawyer Jennifer Harberry on how today's refugee crisis is blowback from U.S. foreign policy in Central America.
Our government helped to create the cartels. Most of the heads of the cartels are former military intelligence leaders who were trained in the United States, armed by the United States, worked carefully with the United States during the genocide era.
We'll also speak with Jennifer Harberry about her husband, Efraim Bamaca Velasquez, the Mayan comandante who was tortured and murdered by the Guatemalan army in the 80s. After her massive protest campaign, Harberry exposed the U.S. role and cover-up in his death. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. President Trump slated to announce his nominee to replace retiring Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy tonight. The nomination is poised to cement the Supreme Court's conservative majority, vastly reshaping the court for decades to come. President Trump is reportedly considering 4 potential nominees. Judge Amy Coney Barrett is the favored nominee among the religious right. The New York Times reports she says she would like to see the scope of abortion rights change. Barrett's a member of the obscure Catholic group People of Praise, which Vox reports requires members to swear an oath of loyalty and give each other input on personal life decisions. Judge Brett Kavanaugh is an appellate judge from Maryland who's ruled against Obamacare and abortion rights in the past. Last fall, he joined a panel of judges in issuing an order to prevent an undocumented immigrant teenager in U.S. detention from obtaining an abortion. That decision was later overturned. Raymond Kethledge is a judge on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit who's been dubbed Gorsuch 2.0. He's ruled against voting rights. CBS also reports he's a staunch supporter of the Second Amendment. Judge Thomas Hardiman is a U.S. Appeals Court judge that the Washington Post reports is a Second Amendment extremist. The Post reports his replacement on the court could lead to a vast expansion in legal gun ownership, and that he's been sympathetic to anti-abortion activists in past rulings. This is President Trump speaking to reporters Sunday.
I'm getting very close to making a final decision. Not yet. And I believe this person will do a great job. But I'm very close to making a decision. Have not made it official yet, obviously. Have not made it final, but we're very close to making a decision.
How many people are you deciding between?
Well, it's still, let's say it's the 4 people, but they're excellent. Everyone, you can't go wrong.
North Korea has accused the Trump administration of pushing a unilateral and gangster-like demand for denuclearization following Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's 2 days of talks in the North Korean capital, Pyongyang. Pompeo did not meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un during his visit, although he did meet with senior North Korean officials. Following the meeting, North Korean Foreign Ministry said the attitude and demands from the U.S. side during the high-level talks were nothing short of deeply regrettable. Pompeo said the talks were productive. The high-level talks come after President Trump met face-to-face with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in a historic summit in Singapore less than a month ago. President Trump's headed to Europe Tuesday to meet with European leaders at the NATO summit in Brussels. In advance of the summit, Trump reportedly sent sharply worded letters to the leaders of Germany, Belgium, Norway, Canada, and other NATO allies, complaining they're spending too little on military. This week's summit comes after Trump lashed out at European allies during the G7 summit in Quebec last month. After his trip to Brussels, Trump's expected to visit London, where widespread protests are planned against his visit. He's then set to travel travel to his private golf courses in Scotland, the Trump Turnberry in Ayrshire, and then fly to Helsinki for a summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin on July 16th. In San Diego, a federal judge will hold a hearing today on whether to delay Tuesday's deadline that mandated the reunification of all children under the age of 5 whom the Trump administration separated from their parents at the border. Under court order, the Justice Department released the names of more than 100 children under 5 years old. The Trump administration's claiming it needs more time to match children with their parents, including at least 19 parents the Trump administration deported already. The American Civil Liberties Union says less than half the separated children under the age of 5 will be reunited by Tuesday. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar has admitted nearly 3,000 children were separated from their parents by the Trump administration. He'd previously claimed, just a few weeks before, that only 2,047 children were separated. We'll have more on the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy and immigration crackdown after headlines. The New York Times reports the Trump administration stunned public health officials and foreign diplomats at the World Health Assembly in Geneva by seeking unsuccessfully to derail a resolution to encourage breastfeeding and to instead promote the interests of the billion-dollar infant formula industry. The U.S. officials reportedly first tried to water down the resolution. When that failed, the officials reportedly told Ecuador if it introduced the measure, Washington would withdraw aid to Ecuador and unleash punishing trade measures. Ultimately, after a slew of other nations refused to introduce the measure in fear of retaliation, Russia stepped in and U.S. officials backed off from the threats. In southwest Japan, flooding and landslides from record rainfall have killed at least 95 people and forced 2 million more to flee their homes. Dozens more are still missing. Scientists have linked heavy rainfall and increased flooding to climate change. In Turkey, the president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, will be sworn in today for another 5-year term as president with sweeping new powers. Ahead of his swearing in, his government fired another 18,000 state workers as part of a far-reaching crackdown on civil society following the failed military coup 2 years ago. In total, Erdogan's government has fired nearly 150,000 people and arrested tens of thousands of human rights activists, lawyers, academics, journalists, political dissidents, and Kurds. In a historic development in East Africa, Ethiopia and Eritrea have reestablished diplomatic ties after a nearly 2-decade-long border dispute that killed tens of thousands of people in the late 90s. The leaders of the two countries met for a landmark meeting in Eritrea's capital Asmara over the weekend, in which the two leaders agreed to reopen embassies in their respective capitals and resume flights between the two countries. Eritrea also agreed to allow landlocked Ethiopia to use Eritrean ports on the Red Sea. This weekend's summit was the first the leaders of the two countries had met face-to-face in nearly 20 years. This is the Ethiopian Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed.
If there is peace between Ethiopian and Eritrean people, the Horn of Africa region will be a region of peace and development. Our people, who live scattered as refugees and humiliation, will come back with dignity. Our citizens will not be sold and exchanged like commodities.
In Haiti, thousands participated in anti-austerity protests in the capital Port-au-Prince after Haiti's Commerce and Economic Ministries announced massive fuel price increases late Friday night as part of austerity measures being imposed on Haiti by the International Monetary Fund. The government quickly canceled the fuel price increases after the massive protests in which at least 2 people were killed and luxury foreign hotels attacked. U.S. airliners have canceled flights to Haiti amidst the protests. In Brazil, a legal and political battle has erupted after a judge ordered former president and current presidential frontrunner, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, to be released from prison as he appeals a corruption conviction he says is politically motivated. Hours after the Sunday morning ruling, a second judge overruled the order. Lula remains in jail. His supporters gathered outside the prison Sunday during the legal battle. This is Gleice Hoffman, a lawmaker from Lula's Workers' Party.
It can't be so much maneuvering for Lula to stay imprisoned. Why does Lula need to be imprisoned when he has the right to be released? Why this maneuvering from the Brazilian court and the federal police in the slow-paced operation Lula's freedom, taking their time with administrative moves that are not legal? This is embarrassing for Brazil in the face of the world.
To see our interview with former President Lula, go to democracynow.org. In Thailand, 7 boys from a youth soccer team have been freed so so far from the underwater cave where they've been trapped for over 2 weeks. Rescuers are undertaking a major effort to free the final 5 boys and their coach who remain trapped in the cave. And in Washington, D.C., federal prosecutors have dropped all charges against all remaining defendants who were arrested at President Trump's Inauguration Day Disrupt 720 protest, January 2017. Prosecutors has initially threatened over 200 people, including journalists, with a slew of felony charges that carried sentences up to 60 years in prison. The dismissal of all remaining charges remains prosecutors failed to win a single conviction in front of a jury related to the protests during Trump's inauguration. To see our full coverage of the J20 protests and the protest trials, go to democracynow.org. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
Tonight, it is my honor and privilege to announce that I will nominate Judge Brett Kavanaugh to the United States Supreme Court.
In a move to dramatically shift the Supreme Court to the right, President Trump's nominated federal Judge Brett Kavanaugh to fill Anthony Kennedy's seat on the High Court. Will President Trump succeed in his campaign promise to overturn Roe v. Wade?
The court, including the justices that you will name, to overturn Roe v. Wade, which includes, in fact, states a woman's right to abortion.
If we put another 2 or perhaps 3 justices on, that's really what's going to be, that will happen. And that'll happen automatically, in my opinion, because I am putting pro-life justices on the court.
We'll take an in-depth look at the Kavanaugh nomination with a roundtable of guests, including former Planned Parenthood President Cecile Richards.
You know, I think there's enormous concern that this is a judicial nominee who was chosen not for his temperament, not for his experience, but because he was checked and approved by the Federalist Society, an organization that has supported the overturn of Roe versus Wade.
All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. President Trump has nominated federal Judge Brett Kavanaugh to replace retiring Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy. If Kavanaugh is confirmed, it would create a block of 5 right-wing justices, making it the most conservative Supreme Court since the 1930s. Critics warn this could lead to major rollbacks of civil rights, environmental regulations, gun control measures, voting rights, and reproductive rights, including possibly overturning Roe v. Wade. This is Supreme Court nominee Judge Brett Kavanaugh speaking Monday night.
My judicial philosophy is straightforward. A judge must be independent and must interpret the law, not make the law. A judge must interpret statutes as written. And a judge must interpret the Constitution as written, informed by history and tradition and precedent.
We'll host a roundtable discussion on Brett Kavanaugh after headlines. In immigration news, the Trump administration will not meet today's deadline to reunite all migrant children under the age of 5. Immigration officials took from their parents at the border, then sent to jails and detention centers across the country. The Justice Department says it will reunite only about half of the more than 100 migrant children under 5 today, after a federal judge in San Diego agreed to extend the deadline mandating the reunification of all of the youngest children. Today's secretive reunification operation will be overseen by the Department of Homeland Security and will involve transporting the children hundreds of miles across the country to undisclosed locations. In total, about 3,000 children are still separated from their parents. Meanwhile, federal Judge Dolly Gee in Los Angeles dealt a major blow to the Trump administration's efforts to indefinitely jail migrant families, including asylum seekers. She ruled the Trump administration cannot amend the 1997 Flores Agreement, which says children cannot be jailed for more than 20 days. All this comes as pro-immigration protests continue nationwide, including in Ohio, where 12 activists were arrested blockading an ICE office, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, in downtown Columbus. President Trump is flying to Brussels today for the NATO summit. Thousands rallied over the weekend in Brussels to oppose Trump's visit, many carrying banners reading pro-America, anti-Trump, and make peace great again. Today's opening of the NATO summit comes as British Prime Minister Theresa May's Conservative Party is in crisis after two top officials, Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson and Brexit Secretary David Davis, resigned on Monday. In East Africa, the historic peace effort between Ethiopia and Eritrea continued Monday, with the leaders of the neighboring countries signing a joint declaration of peace and friendship and declaring an end to the nearly 2 decades-long state of war. From 1998 to 2000, Ethiopia and Eritrea fought a border war in which 70,000 people were killed. Since then, ongoing border disputes have kept the two countries in a state of conflict. This is UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres celebrating the news of the landmark peace declaration.
I believe that the recent evolution in relation to between Eritrea and Ethiopia is a very important signal of hope, not only for the two countries, not only for Africa, but for the whole world.
In Afghanistan, a suicide bomb attack in the eastern city of Jalalabad has killed at least 19 people, including 10 sikhs. At least 20 more people were wounded in the bombing, which came only hours after Afghan President Ashraf Ghani inaugurated a hospital in Jalalabad. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack. In Burma, 2 Reuters journalists have been charged under Burma's colonial-era Official Secrets Act, which carries up to 14 years in prison. Wallon and Ja So-woo were arrested on December 12th as they investigated a Burmese military massacre of Rohingya Muslims committed in the village of Indin last September. This is Wallon speaking outside the court Monday.
We didn't commit any crime. What I'd like to say in relation to the court's decision today is that we will not give up. The court's decision is not a declaration that we are guilty. Even though we are charged, we are not guilty. We have an opportunity to defend ourselves. In the upcoming sessions, we'll testify to our innocence. We will not tremble before the charges laid on us.
In Haiti, workers launched a general strike Monday, shutting down the capital Port-au-Prince amidst ongoing anti-austerity protests nationwide. The protests began Friday when the government tried to dramatically raise fuel prices at the behest of the International Monetary Fund. This is Haitian protester François Anelson.
I think that President Jovenel Moïse should step down because of his incompetence, above all because he makes bad decisions. In this case, he should leave as soon as possible.
In Thailand, rescuers have evacuated all 12 boys from a youth soccer team and their coach from an underground cave. The group has been trapped since June 23rd. The dangerous rescue operation has captivated the world. In India, a widespread environmental movement in the capital, Delhi, has forced the government to abandon its plans to cut down 16,000 trees in a city that's already one of the most polluted on Earth. The month-long grassroots movement included thousands of people participating in vigils, sit-ins, tree defense patrols, and tree planting activities. Residents also filed lawsuits which forced a high court to halt all tree cutting in the city, ruling it could, quote, not allow Delhi to die at the cost of the redevelopment projects. Back in the United States, President Trump's longtime personal driver, Noel Clintron, has sued the Trump administration, sued the Trump organization, arguing he was not paid for more than 3,000 hours of overtime in recent years. The lawsuit argues, quote, in an utterly callous display of unwarranted privilege and entitlement, President Donald Trump has, through the defendant entities, exploited and denied significant wages to his own long-standing personal driver, unquote. Meanwhile, the Trump organization is seeking to hire 61 foreign guest workers through the H-2B visa program to cook and clean at Trump's private Mar-a-Lago resort in Palm Beach, Florida. While Trump has sought to dramatically crack down on nearly every form of immigration into the United States during his time in office, he's expanded the H-2B visa program, which benefits companies seeking to hire foreign workers for seasonal, low-wage work. And in Virginia, a federal court has ruled a civil rights lawsuit against the neo-Nazis and white supremacists who planned last year's deadly rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, can move forward. The lawsuit filed by Charlottesville residents argues the organizers of the August 2017 Unite the Right rally violated the 1871 Ku Klux Klan Act and the 1866 Civil Rights Act. The suit specifically names prominent white supremacists, including Jason Kessler, Richard Spencer, and James Fields, who killed the anti-racist protester Heather Heyer when he drove his car through a crowd of counter-protesters. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
Nosso programa fica por aqui. Você pode acompanhar a gente pela página do Facebook e pelo blog do GS Terra em Transe. Nos vemos na próxima semana. Até lá!
Cada grupo de 2 alunos escolheu o tema, desenvolveu o projeto. Faz um mês que eles estão trabalhando nisso, então faz um mês que eu estou orientando durante as aulas. Olha, acrescente isso, tire aquilo, conserta aqui, faça lá. E os outros professores também da área de computação.
Uma pequena central multimídia, usando só 2 Arduinos. Arduino é tipo um microprocessador que você pode programar coisas para ele. Realmente é muito chato você chegar na sala, ficar sentado só olhando, mas quando você traz para o mundo real que você está fazendo, isso aí sim que é interessante.
Aqui na PUC a gente tem a disponibilidade e a opção de fazer um trabalho assim mais complicado, mas que é bem interessante e a gente aprende bastante fazendo com esse trabalho.
Eles estão aprendendo muita coisa de matemática, muita coisa de física e muita coisa na área de computação.
Uma trava de segurança. Na hora que eu viro a maçaneta, ele começa a tocar o alarme e a luz pisca. E na hora que eu volto, ele para e eu tenho que acionar a senha. Que aqui a gente colocou uma senha padrão 00. E ele destrava e a porta abre.
O professor não é aquele professor que ele passa a matéria, é isso, quem aprendeu, vai lá fazer a prova. Não, eles estão lá para te ajudar, qualquer coisa que você precisa, eles... Sabe, até mesmo depois da aula.
Até um amigo meu já estou indicando a PUC porque ele quer vir para a mesma área que a minha. Eu falei, vem para a PUC que a PUC já está passando prática, eu não fiquei só na teoria.
Viu? Acende o LED vermelho e apita o buzzer. Mas esse cartão está. Aproxima, aí ele vai ler, acesso permitido, porque ele está cadastrado. Conforme eu estou girando, o saldo está aumentando. E quando chegar a 2,50, vai ativar o server e vai cair o doce. Assim como ele vai trazer incentivo, ele vai motivar também bastante o aluno ao longo do curso.
Quem vai fazer um curso de ciência da computação precisa ter uma visão geral de vários assuntos. E isso, eles estão sendo incentivados nesse projeto.
A parte mais difícil que foi fazer a conexão do celular com o Arduino. Para isso, eu tive que usar o módulo Bluetooth, ligar sala. Cada aula é importante. Acho que o conteúdo aqui é muito bom.
O aluno de primeiro ano ele já consegue visualizar do que ele vai ser capaz ao longo do curso.
Dentro desse pequeno túnel aqui, a gente instalou um LED desse lado e um LDR desse lado aqui. O LDR é um sensor de luminosidade, então no momento que o LED está aceso e o carrinho ele passa, o carrinho ele faz uma pequena sombra no sensor de luminosidade e esse sensor de luminosidade pega essa diferença de luminosidade e transforma isso em uma informação como o lap e o lap time. A gente vai aprendendo muitas coisas, quebrando desafios e superando coisas, superando dificuldades.
O projeto que agrega vários tipos de conhecimento e que chega a uma atividade concreta dessas é bastante estimulante para o aluno. Esse projeto desenvolvido dentro da disciplina de física é super importante porque ele agrega conhecimentos de matemática pura, de física e de computação.
A gente está usando 3 higrômetros, então ele detecta qual terra está seca e ele liga a bombinha de aquário e irriga. Esse projeto ele foi muito importante porque além da gente ter que pesquisar bastante, a gente teve que se soltar e se conhecer melhor todo mundo. E eu acho que esse é o diferencial, porque ela como um todo ela é meio que uma família.
O projeto
surgiu com o auxílio do professor, que passou um trabalho para a gente fazer a ponte, né? Que é a ponte arqueada de Leonardo da Vinci.
Isso foi muito enriquecedor para a gente, porque a gente conseguiu colocar em prática os conceitos da disciplina.
O nosso projeto, além de ter o aspecto técnico-científico, ele teve uma inspiração, o biomimetismo. O biomimetismo, basicamente, é a execução de projetos onde você busca alguma inspiração na natureza para tornar isso funcional e criar um projeto. Por exemplo, tem uma curva, né? Ela existe porque aquele formato consegue fazer com que o peso, a carga, seja distribuído de forma uniforme, ou seja, ele não vai quebrar.
O projeto foi baseado em 3 etapas. A primeira foi a busca de referências bibliográficas. Depois disso, a gente fez um protótipo para poder dimensionar. E a terceira etapa foi a realização da ponte em tamanho real.
Os módulos são compostos por 3 peças. Uma na horizontal, que é uma trava inteira, e 2 na lateral, que possui 3 encaixes.
A gente viu que se fizesse uma seção retangular, a área, a seção que receberia carga, seria muito menor. Então a gente resolveu fazer em formato de arco, que assim os esforços solicitantes se distribuiriam melhor na seção. E temos também a barra onde nós temos os pés, né, que são os apoios. A gente utilizou um material polimérico para criar atrito, né, que é mais um dos conceitos que a gente aprendeu que são pertinentes à matéria estudada.
A nova forma de educação e engenharia dá muito enfoque exatamente ao trabalho em grupo e principalmente às competências que são desenvolvidas quando os alunos pesquisam.
Justamente por ser uma ponte arqueada de Leonardo da Vinci, essa releitura proporcionou essa experiência cultural também. Essa interdisciplinaridade proporcionou para a gente o desenvolvimento das habilidades não só exatas, que são requeridas pelo curso, mas o desenvolvimento de outras habilidades humanas, que são fundamentais depois para a sua atuação profissional. Tem sido uma experiência muito enriquecedora fazer o curso de Engenharia Civil aqui.
Jornalismo é uma coisa que eu sempre quis e fica aquela coisa de você estar fazendo o que você gosta, então tudo acaba sendo apaixonante. Quando eu cheguei aqui, eu fazia questão de ficar aqui o dia inteiro só para conhecer um pouco mais, né? Porque a estrutura, o prédio antigo, toda a história que a PUC carrega e tal. As aulas têm um teor, puxam para um lado assim muito crítico. Eu acho que isso é muito importante para o jornalista, porque a gente sempre discute muito as coisas atuais que acontecem no nosso país durante a aula para exemplificar o que a gente está aprendendo. Porque muitas vezes você está aprendendo uma coisa que aconteceu há muito tempo atrás e você tem que fazer um link, né? Por que você precisa aprender isso? Os professores fazem isso muito bem. Você acaba aprendendo mais fora da aula do que na aula em si. Porque os movimentos políticos aqui dentro são muito fortes. Então você tem movimentos políticos de esquerda, direita, aí você tem gente falando de ecologia, você tem os centros acadêmicos, o pessoal discutindo marxismo, sabe? É uma coisa muito enriquecedora. Também tem o jornal Contraponto, que é um jornal laboratório do curso de jornalismo e que é um clima de redação, porque todo mundo vai lá, sugere pauta, discute pauta toda semana, tem deadline, tem fechamento, então a sala de aula a gente aprende bastante, mas o que é interessante são as pessoas que estão aqui dentro mesmo, porque vir aqui só ter aula você está perdendo muita coisa, eu acho que você tem que explorar.